Now let's also apply CSS modules to person.js. So there, instead of a style div, I'll use a regular div here, just like this, basically what we had before. But now I will import from the CSS file again using this syntax where I import classes from that file. Now we can get rid of that style div here. We don't need it anymore. We don't need that import anymore. And now here, I just want to add class name, classes dot, and now it's up to you what you want to use there. And here I'll assign a dot person class. And that means that now in person CSS, we need to ensure that we have such a dot person class, which we do. And then again, this will be transformed to a unique random or pseudo-random class name and be mapped to this person property on this imported object so that we can access the generated class name here and assign it to the div. And of course, here we can then also use a media query just like this. This will work because in here, and that's really important, with CSS modules, you write regular CSS code. You have normal CSS files. Just the way you add them is special. And therefore now here, if we toggle this, we have our same person style we had before, where the boxes don't get wider than 450 pixels and otherwise take up 60% of the width. So this is CSS modules. And ultimately, it's of course up to you what you prefer. I'm just a fan of having my JavaScript code and the CSS code separated. And with CSS modules, that's very simple, whilst at the same time having the power of scoping CSS to certain components. So that what we define here on this person class does not apply to every person class in the entire app, but only to person classes used in the files where we import from the person CSS file like this. And this is a syntax which I therefore like a lot. If you prefer one of the other syntaxes, you can of course use that as well. You can use styled components or Radium. Throughout this course, however, I will use CSS modules just as shown here because of the splitting of CSS and JavaScript, which in my opinion also makes it easier to focus on JavaScript. Now, one last word about an alternative way of using CSS modules. If you're using React scripts 2.x or higher, when I mentioned that you eject, I mentioned that you only need to do this on version 1. If you're using 2.x or higher, you can use the syntax automatically. The only addition you need to do is you need to import from .module CSS and rename your CSS file to .module.css. And then this will automatically work without ejecting. Here, I'll not do it because we already did eject and it's fine like this. But if you are using a later version of React scripts, you can save the eject step and just import from a .module CSS file, and CSS modules will be unlocked.